За сайн байцгаана уу эрхэм үзэгчдээ. Бас баггүй хугацаанд завсарласан Syndicate Talk нэвтрүүлгийн манай ээлж шинэ дугаар эхэлж байна. Тэгээ удаан хугацааны дараа та бүхэндээ эргэж уулзч одоо маш их таатай байна. Энэ удаа манай нэвтрүүлэгт оролцохоор маш хүндтэй, маш сонирхолтой зочид маань хүрэлцэн ирсэн байгаа. Би тэгээ зочдоо товчхон танилцуулъя. Миний зүүн гардалд Тусгай Олимпын Зүүн Азийн бүсийн ерөнхийлөгч буюу гүйцэтгэх захирал Фреда ирсэн байна. Мөн Тусгай Олимпын Олон Улсын хороонд удирдах зөвлөлтөнд байсан одоо зөвлөхөөр ажиллаж байгаа ноён элчин сайд хүрэлцэн ирсэн байна. Тэгээ Монголын Тусгай Олимпын хорооны гүйцэтгэх захирал Алтанцэцэг, Олон Улсын Тусгай Олимпын хорооны тэргүүндэд ерөнхийлөгч Шон гэдэг нэрхэн мөндөж ирсэн байна. Тэгээ би эхний асуултаа нийтдээ тавья. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation to be the guest of my TV talk show, and please introduce yourself briefly and why are you still a part of the Special Olympics? Why are you serving this community?
Well, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. This is my first visit to Mongolia, and it's been a fantastic time. I've made new friends, and it's been wonderful, and seeing the leadership of Altan and the team of Special Olympics Mongolia. It's been really wonderful. My name is Shon Fергусон. I'm the head of government relations for Special Olympics International. I also serve as Tim Shriver's chief of staff in Washington, our Washington headquarters. Tim, as you well know, is the chairman of the Special Olympics International organization. His mother, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, sister of President John F. Kennedy, founded Special Olympics, the first official games in 1968, but earlier in their backyard as Camp Shriver. I've been with Special Olympics International now for just about 8 years, after having worked in the U.S. Senate, U.S. House, and for the NFL football team in Washington. I made the move over to Special Olympics International. One of the reasons is Special Olympics appealed to me, and Ambassador Gallegos and I spoke about this. Most people are drawn because they have a family member or there's some personal connection. I don't have a family member, but my mother, my aunt, and my grandmother all took care of people with disabilities while I was all throughout my life. In fact, my mother just retired from that job just a few months ago. So all of my life I was around kids and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And when I saw the job, heard about this job, I thought it would be also a great organization, but a way to honor these wonderful women in my life and what they did throughout their careers. And when I started, my first event was the Los Angeles Games in 2015, and
we were there. Mongolia was there.
Yeah, Mongolia was there. Yes, and I saw things I'd never seen before that were just amazing. I remember the moment when it got me at USC in the gymnasium with a young athletes event, and I saw the joy of the little kids out there playing. And that was wonderful, but even more that really affected me, I saw the moms and dads, the brothers and sisters, the grandpas and grandmas with just joy on their faces. And that was a moment when I said, oh, yeah, this is a place I should be. And so it's been a wonderful 8 years. We've worked hard, but being a small part of such an important organization has been a really highlight of my life. So.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
How about Altan? Why did you accept that invitation to be a CEO of the Special Olympics Mongolia?
Okay, so I don't have such a long, nice story like a Sean, so I will be very short, but most nice things I wanted to say, I think you said it. But anyway, my name is Алтанцэцэг, and I'm a National Director of Special Olympics Mongolia. I've been with Special Olympics already 7th year, and I don't believe it's been 7th year, I just feel like it's like 1 year. So why I still keep going with Special Olympics? Because, my background is mining, and I used to work with the young men, strong men, the miners, geologists in the field. But now here in Special Olympics, I really can see how I can change the lives of the people. And I just see how we feel much different before the Special Olympics and after Special Olympics. And I feel the happiness and joy and how the families enjoy it. So I think it's worth waking up every morning and go to the work and to see it's worth of everything. So I'm planning to still go on and until down, so we're going with Special Olympics. Yeah.
Thank you very much. How about you, Mr. Ambassador?
Well, I have a history of a little longer than that. I began because I was the president of the working group that was drafting and negotiating the Convention for the Rights for Persons with Disabilities. And I had the opportunity there of meeting many organizations of civil society, and amongst them I met Special Olympics. And I was extremely impressed by their contribution to the negotiations. We had long conversations with Eunice, with Tim, and with a group of individuals who were part of Special Olympics at the time. This is 21 years ago. After we negotiated the convention, and it was approved in 2006 by the General Assembly and entered into signing in 2007, Tim called me one day and asked me to be a member of the board. So I became a member of the board. I had been a member of the board for 9 years, and with an extraordinary experience. I joined what John and Altana have said about the joy of seeing this in reality. But I also saw the change in the children. I saw the change in the families, the dynamics of this. And then I appreciated the extraordinary effort of so many volunteers around the world in an organization that has 170 more entities, countries and entities, working with people who are the least of the disability group, because intellectual disability is still a frontier issue for us. We can acknowledge that, visual disability, the wheelchair, the person who's blind, the person who can't hear, we have accessibility. We know more every day about how to do this. But intellectual disability is something you can be born with, you can acquire during your life by accident, by sickness, by war, like in Ukraine now. But as you age, you will have some type of disability. So at the moment, we are 1.3 billion persons with disabilities. And the impact group that we normally talk about is 2 per each, so we're talking about 2.6 billion. The total of that would be near 4 billion people, which is half of humanity.
Yeah.
I was in a meeting the other day in Israel, and someone came up to me, and we were in a meeting of 1,000 people or something like this, and she was talking with we were talking in a panel, and she asked the audience, raise the hand anyone who has a disability, and there were a lot of people in wheelchairs and the blind and who couldn't hear that raised their hand. And she said, why didn't the people wearing glasses raise their hand? If they did not have glasses,
yes,
you would not consider yourself disabled. And so I learned this as a very good example that people do not appreciate the whole context of this. And so I became involved with Special Olympics. And I'm a believer and respect the people who do this, because this is a volunteer organization. This is a family organization. This is an organization that has the capacity of moving issues of education, issues of health, issues of community integration. So now we are in the aftermath of 50 years of Special Olympics. We are in the revolution of inclusion. And I think that is the lemma in which we have to make a better world society than we have. So that is the challenge, to inform the governments, inform the political leadership, inform the economic leadership, the private sector, the academics, the conglomerate of society. That the difference in the society is something important, that we should appreciate the diversity that we may be also disabled.
Yes.
This is not about this minority who has a disability, but that we will all, in one way or the other, be disabled.
Yeah.
And so that is the difference between a human rights endeavor to make dignity the word, non-discrimination and inclusion the objectives.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your service. How about
Okay.
you, Ms. Freda?
Thank you for having us. Yes, I'm Freda Fang, and I'm the President and Managing Director of Special Olympic East Asia. And in East Asia, we have 6 programs, including SO Mongolia, SO China, SO Hong Kong, Macau, Chinese Taipei, and Korea. I started with Special Olympics as a volunteer in 2002 when the East Asia region was first established in Beijing. And afterwards, when we held the Summer World Games in 2007 in Shanghai,
Yes.
I was actually a vendor putting on some of the larger events. And just as Sean and Alton and Ambassador have said, what really touched my heart was the courage and the determination of our Special Olympic athletes. And anytime I saw them, whether it be on the playing field or in a summit or a forum, it just amazes me to see how each individual has potential. Every one of us are different. We're no better or no less. But to experience Special Olympics and our mission and cause, which, as you have all said, is really the revolution of inclusion. We are a dignity revolution, and we are really here to really realize the potential of our intellectually disabled athletes, whether that be through training and competition, through sports, or through our healthy athlete screening, and especially in the last few years through our unified education and our unified sports. We really want to integrate our athletes with the intellectual disability and the non-disabled, or the students in the mainstream schools together with our students in the special schools, because we feel that they can really help each other. And, you know, growing up in our culture, I never really came into contact with any Down syndrome child or autistic child. But having come to Special Olympics, starting as a volunteer, I just realized what an extraordinary organization that we are all privileged to be a part of.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next question is, I really would like to ask, still, you know, especially Mongolia is already 10 years old now, but still, when I communicate with different stakeholders and media, many people confuse between, you know, International Olympic Committee and Paralympic and Special Olympics. So what's the relationship and the structure, and what's the difference actually? Very briefly, can you please explain to our audience?
You know, and anyone else that wants to add, feel free. You know, we come across this, you know, in my travels with our chairman, Dr. Shriver, not only globally but in the United States. People still confuse Special Olympics with the Paralympics. I'll be perfectly honest, probably when I started with Special Olympics 8 years ago, I probably would have confused it as well. That is a challenge, you know, though, you know, the Paralympics and the International Olympic Committee, they're our friends, but we're different. We are different. You know, Paralympics obviously is for persons with physical disabilities primarily. We also have people with physical disabilities in Special Olympics as well, but primarily focused on intellectual disabilities. It is a challenge. I even see that in the government in the United States. You know, we go in every year for our Capitol Hill Day, and you new members of Congress, new staff, you have to tell them, no, we're actually not the Paralympics.
Same problem.
Thank you. You said very kind things about, you know, the other Olympics that follow the big, you know, Olympics. That's not us, but thank you for the kind words about them. We support them as well. The International Olympic Committee has I guess sanctioned may be the word, or agreed to support us using the word Olympic. It wasn't initially an easy thing at the beginning. I've heard stories from the very beginning of when Mrs. Shriver first started, had the first Special Olympics Games in Chicago, that at those times, they weren't really sure they wanted these athletes using the word Olympics, and it took the force of nature that was Eunice Kennedy Shriver, to find a way around that. And I think over the years, obviously as society has changed, the members of the board of the International Olympic Committee, they're very welcoming of Special Olympics athletes. And as I said, we don't partner with either that much, but I think we have a friendly relationship and support each other.
Totally independent institution.
Yes, yeah, we are. As you know, the IOC and Paralympics are connected, but we are not connected. So we're separate from those two entities. So.
Yeah. We also have alternating World Games, similar to the Olympics and Paralympics. So every 2 years we have winter, and then 2 years summer, 2 years winter, 2 years summer. But one very, I think, major distinction is our Special Olympic athletes, our intellectually disabled athletes, are the most marginalized population in the world. Okay, our Paralympic athletes, they're much more competitive. Yes. Yeah. But whereas for Special Olympics, we really emphasize participation because we want our athletes to have the opportunity to shine through our games and competitions.
I would say Tim Schreiber, if he were here, one of the ways he will distinguish it when he speaks is, Paralympics and Olympics, the original Olympics, are elite sport. And though Special Olympics, it's real competition. Our athletes, they want to win, and they go in, they train, and they want to win gold, silver, or bronze. But it's Special Olympics is more so competition with yourself to do the best you can do, to do a little bit better each time, to get better in your sport, but also in life, And so I think that's one of the fundamental differences is those being, elite sport. These are some of the best athletes in the world. Now we have some great athletes that I've watched. Some of our, especially our unified events. You wouldn't know. You can't pick out who's the unified partner and who's the Special Olympics athlete. So we have amazing athletes, but that's definitely more elite than Special Olympics.
So I think another one difference from the Paralympics and Special Olympics, the games, it's the Special Olympics is all about the awareness. So by doing all the Special Olympics games, summer games, regional games, we're really aiming to raise awareness among the society. We really want to change the mindset of how we say the rest of the people who is not disabled. So I think this is our vision, this is our goal. So that's why we're doing the Special Olympics. It's all about raising an awareness and changing attitude towards the people of with intellectual disability. Yeah? And of course, the main important part for Special Olympics, it's just involvement and participation. It's not gold medal, it's not silver medal. It's just to feel that these children and everybody is part of the big historical thing, and they feel like I am the same person as everybody else. So this is a big difference between Paralympics and Special Olympics. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it's an issue also of the pride that an intellectually disabled person competing has of this issue. I've talked to hundreds of parents and hundreds of people involved and coaches, and I remember one story which comes out to me more in the sense of an example. One of the leaders in Latin America told me that her son would play tennis with her father. The father was a good tennis player, and the son could not match the expertise of his father. But in Special Olympics, he went on a trip to another country in Latin America where they had a championship of tennis, and he won the first game, and then he won the second game, and he would call at night to his mother, "I won the second game, and I won the third game, and I won this, and I won this medal, and I won this other medal. And he came back a changed person to his home and said to his father, I have 3 medals, you don't. and that experience, I think, is very relevant because Special Olympics changes people, changes the athlete, the family, the coach, the spectator. Because you cannot leave behind your emotions of looking at this, the face of a child who is extraordinarily happy, just competing, just being there. So I think it adds to that value, which all my fellow panelists have said, this intrinsic emotional value that teaches humanity that all of us have the opportunity of succeeding.
All of you guys mentioned repeatedly the word about the voluntarism. So in all societies, some people do understand voluntarism, some people don't. They even ask, why should I work free for you, So I'm very busy, very expensive. Then actually, what's voluntarism? Why voluntarism?
I think that you have an issue of a concept that is worldwide. It's not only in these organizations like Special Olympics or like the churches. Many of the churches of the world have volunteers, and I respect them very much because they go to the jungles to build churches, to build schools, to teach, they're missionaries in the value of churches. But I think that you transfer in a volunteer's way your experience. Most of the people in Special Olympics do not earn salaries. Most of the people who work in Special Olympics are volunteers. They dedicate their time, their efforts. They even contribute to in the sense. So I was sitting in Harvard next to a colleague of mine, and she saw that I was wearing a Special Olympics, and she said, my husband is a policeman, and he has been doing this for 25 years. Wow. He's a volunteer policeman, and so you have a concept that in some cases, in many societies, is not as much as we would like to have this core, this army of volunteers, women and men, who can progress in our societies, make it a more significant change.
So I think why people do volunteer. I think when you do volunteer work, afterwards you feel so good about yourself, and you feel like you changed somebody's life, and you are satisfied. So I wish that everybody in the society community will volunteer. We don't count the money, we don't count the time, but they just devote their heart and soul to change somebody's life. So I think the volunteerism, it's a big should be the big movement like Special Olympics, and to become the global event. Yeah,
I think it's all about transforming lives. Yeah. I think that's why we're all involved with Special Olympics. Yeah. And also, as society progresses, many organizations are more and more intent on doing corporate social responsibility, CSR. Yes. And through Special Olympics, and Sean mentioned our unified sports and our unified education, when you hear the word unified, we are integrating our Special Olympic athletes with their unified partners or the non-disabled partners. And this integration not only helps our athletes realize their potential or help them gain dignity and respect, but even more importantly, we are seeing how our unified sports and our unified activities and our unified education helps the non-disabled individual, especially at a young age, because they grow up learning how to have compassion, learning how to respect and to advocate for our intellectually disabled athletes. And I'll give you a very simple example. And this really just blows people away because we have certain special rules and regulations for our unified sports. So if you're on a basketball team and you have a unified basketball game of 5 players, 3 would be our Special Olympic athletes. 2 would be the unified partners. But the unified partners know that they are not there to be the most valuable player, to show off my talents as a basketball player. They are there to help our Special Olympic athletes because their balls don't score, they don't count. In certain games we have special rules so that only the baskets scored by the intellectually disabled Special Olympic athletes, those count as baskets. So if you think about the effect that our unified activities has on the non-disabled children and individuals, it really has a huge impact on society.
Great. One of my favorite thing at Special Olympics is, most of the countries, the big stars, superstars and athletes and celebrities are global ambassador for Special Olympics, So luckily I met many of them. And actually, what's the key requirement to be a global ambassador? And is there any chance and possibilities to bring some of them to Mongolia like you guys, Then is there anyone we can nominate from Mongolia to be a global ambassador?
Okay, I'll answer that. In our East Asia region, we're very honored and privileged to have many Olympians and champions in the sports world as our global and regional ambassadors. China is our largest population program. We have, in our region, we have about over 1.4 million athletes, and 1.3 come from China because the population is just so massive. And we have global ambassadors such as Yao Ming, Li Na. Yao Ming basketball, of course. Li Na is the tennis champion. We have Yang Yang, who's the ice skating, speed skating champion. And also the boxing champion, Zhou Shiming. And recently, we've just signed on a very young regional ambassador who was China's very first snowboarding champion at the recent Beijing Winter Olympics, Su Yiming. So I think the number one requirement is they really have to have a compassionate heart and the willingness to help support our vision, our mission, and our cause, and our Special Olympic athletes.
They don't get paid, yeah? It's all volunteers.
No, they're volunteers. Yes, they are volunteers. And they have, we have many requirements that we ask of them, and that might be in the sense of social media, like yourself, who you spread the word on our movement, and also like if they can introduce sponsors to us, who can really help support our cause as well. But most importantly is to really believe in our athletes and believe in our cause. And we have had very good relationships with them, and they help appear at our events as well as help publicize our activities. Many of them are also board members from our Special Olympics board. Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing, we are constantly looking for new global ambassadors. We have great ambassadors that have been with us for quite some time. But as time goes on, it's you need new names, the more popular up and coming celebrities or sports stars, and so I feel like we have a really good mix of global ambassadors that have been around for a while that are well known by older generations, but now we're starting to bring in new global ambassadors that appeal to younger generations. For instance, related to Tim Shriver, Catherine Schwarzenegger, and her husband Chris Pratt, who's a major movie star in the United States. If he puts out a tweet for us, it's like, wow, you see it in the interactions we're having, and I think even fundraising at times, it'll bump things up. So it's amazing. It's amazing the impact that our global ambassadors can have, and it's finding the right balance of different areas of society, different eras. young up and coming. Now if you have someone with a huge social media presence, that's enormously helpful. So, they're great. And the idea of having a global ambassador come to Mongolia, we're always open to exploring those opportunities. Somebody that would appeal to the population here, or decision makers, corporates, whatnot. Yeah, we definitely would be open to exploring some of those ideas. So.
Taking advantage of my TV talk show, I would like to request officially, we would like to invite and bring the Drogba.
Oh, did you? Yeah, Drogba,
to Mongolia. Yeah. Even the chairperson and director of the Mongolian Football Association, he promised to us also, Mongolian Football Association would cooperate with us to raise a fund jointly, to bring him also to make events to raise public awareness about Special Olympics.
And Didi, as you may know, is not only a global ambassador, he's on our board of directors now. The Special Olympics International Board of Directors. He will be in Berlin at the World Games, so you may actually be able to speak to him directly and make an invitation.
Yeah.
So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So in addition to the Olympic champions and sports celebrities, we also have global ambassadors from other walks of life, such as Yang Lan, who's a media expert, and also Zhou Xing, who is an entertainment actress. Many different walks of life.
Yes.
Yes, so of course in Mongolia we don't have any global ambassadors yet. I guess he or should be a very globally recognized person. So we're still, since like 2 years ago, we were looking for some candidates to be our global ambassador, but we have the Mongolian Special Olympics ambassadors. It's young, talented young people who are very famous among young people. The one person, for example, who was very famous in Mongolia got talent performance, so he is working now like a Mongolian Special Olympics ambassadors. So of course we are looking forward to have very soon a real global ambassador here, and I guess we should organize something big in Mongolia, like regional games or world games, to bring more ambassadors here. Yeah, so that's what our goal.
Mr. Ambassador, you are the real ambassador, not only socially, especially, but also politically. Please advise me how to be ambassador. I want to be ambassador.
We were talking about the possibilities of course, the extraordinary effort that Mongolia is doing for Special Olympics, and I joined Sean and everyone who is here congratulating our team for an extraordinary job that they have done with a very, very small team. Including the capabilities of Special Olympics, think that we should have a game in Mongolia. We should aim at having a winter game in maybe in 10 years, having a winter game that will coalesce all this and put all the energies to putting this on the historic map. We are always looking for opportunities to this, and these ambassadors, these representatives who are instrumental in our way of communicating to more people. Fundamentally, we need to spread the word. I think that the basic condition for an ambassador is his way of dealing with the problem of being part of the cause, spreading the cause of Special Olympics. We need people to be the voice of these intellectually disabled children, to be able to extend the message beyond the borders of normal activities that we do in Special Olympics. And if we can do this adequately, we can have more compassion and we can have more dignity in the lives of the athletes, their families, and society.
Thank you.
Change the world.
So we have only 7 minutes left, and last question. I really would like to ask each of you, what is the biggest challenge you face right now as a Special Olympics, ambassadors and key stakeholder, and what's your solution? How to fix it, and your advice to the Mongolian stakeholders, what we should do, what we should focus on.
Well, I can start. One of my primary roles at Special Olympics is our interaction with governments, and I think that's there's a lot of opportunity there. A lot of challenges, though, too. One thing that we've really not done, and we're starting with the Global Leadership Coalition that we spoke to the Prime Minister about today, is to try to broaden our approaches to governments. I think it's fair to say, and I believe that our leadership would say, that's a kind of a part of the organization where we've not probably done enough, and we've left a lot on the table. Mm-hmm. Support, financial, abilities, having leadership in countries, their ability to spread the word. We've probably missed the mark on that over the last 50 years. But we're trying to, this Global Leadership Coalition is kind of our first steps to try to fix that. There's a lot of challenges in that because governments change, as the ambassador knows. One day have a certain party or a certain person leading a country. Overnight, it can change, and then you start from scratch. Something that was committed by a previous government maybe isn't going to be adhered to by the next government, and that's very frustrating. And it's hard. When Alton, who's got a small team, they're really they're trying to keep everything going. They've got 50 priorities sitting on their desks, and then you say, yeah, but you got to go talk to this minister, and they say, well, they just the one I had a relationship with just left. Now we got to start over with the new one. It's hard. It's a lot of work. You need persistence. And that's a huge challenge, at least from my corner of the organization. But it also is a huge opportunity. And we're really hopeful that we can create a partnership with the government here in Mongolia. It's felt like we've had a real warm welcome from the government and from the people. And so this is just one example in one country where we're starting to fix that part where we haven't done as much globally. So.
Just today, Prime Minister promised to send one of his cabinet members to Berlin.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah.
So I think for Mongolian Special Olympics, one of the biggest challenges, of course, to reach out to those people who are really cannot give any support even from the local the communities. So the Mongolia, we have the big, huge country, and it's not many people with intellectual disability are really open for the society. Mm-hmm. It's a historical. The families tend to hide the children. They don't want to talk to anybody else about the children. So we really want to make sure we want to change at least the family members of the people with intellectual disability. It's accept and start doing something about it. This is the core of the family. And then family starts doing something, the community will follow up. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think we're very much about giving opportunities to our athletes. Mm-hmm. And as you all know, Special Olympics is very much an events-based organization. Yes. We gather our athletes together. We give them opportunities to be trained and to compete in sports activities, as well as to participate in our free healthy athlete screenings to help make sure they keep fit medically and physically, as well as emotionally. And then, of course, we also have our unified education and inclusive education activities. But because of COVID, we have really suffered from losing our athletes to be able to participate in our on-the-ground events. So now that COVID is behind us, we are working very hard to bring back the more than 40% of athletes, the loss of athlete participation during the 3 years of not being able to do events. Now, having said that, events are expensive. To be able to round up our athletes together, to give them the high quality type of events that Special Olympic believes in. So one of our biggest challenges at the regional level, I have to say, is fundraising.
Yes, same everywhere.
Same everywhere, yeah. And we're very grateful to governments for their financial support. For most of our programs receive quite a bit of subsidy from the governments, but also we really need to reach out to the corporates, to the individual donors, and making sure they understand how our Special Olympic athletes can benefit from their contribution and support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have the 1 minute.
I think the challenge is how to change the society.
Yeah.
And I think Special Olympics is doing an extraordinary job in doing that. But we have to do it worldwide because the discrimination disabled persons have in their families, because of their religions, because of culture, because of many other issues. We have to make a society that is more holistic, more complete, more respectful, and more respectful of the human rights of all.
Thank you very much. So thanks again for accepting my invitation, and I really touched the one word each of you mentioned, that real revolution is inclusion. So let's change everything together in the future, make a brighter and a better future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
Баярлалаа үзэгч нараа.
Thank you.
Баярлалаа.